Today we're hosting the first annual 2016 Georgia Tiny House Festival. The Tiny House Festival started off as a small dream between myself and John Kernahan, president of the Tiny House Association in Georgia, and it has exploded into a huge following. It celebrates micro-living, or living with a small impact, potentially living off-grid, but it starts to examine more centered self versus big material world.
When you walk through different builders' houses, everyone has a different priority for what they're shooting for. Some are kind of at the lower end as far as price point, and that's their goal, and so finishes on those aren't necessarily as high as if you're at the higher end of the builders, segment.
And I noticed people were looking at the sheds that we sell, and they were trying to convert them into tiny homes. And I really hadn't heard of tiny homes in much any great detail at that point. But as more and more people came to me naturally to talk about the tiny homes, I started to think that there was a market for it. And the units that we were selling were not going to meet the code that inspectors, so they couldn't get power, they couldn't get septic. So they were trying to do that, but if the inspector caught them, they would have to pull it out, and it wasn't a good thing for them. So I worked on the idea of taking our buildings and making them compliant to meet Georgia codes. And so we've created a model that is built in a warehouse that's different than this model here, but the size of this model that we can build, and it can meet the building codes of Georgia.
So what's happening with this tiny house movement is that it's bringing about a new way to approach life. Actually, it's an old way being brought back in a new way to approach life. The three pillars you could kind of say for what the Tiny House Atlanta or Tiny House movement stands for is economical. You save a lot of money. So you're able to have a house for under $50,000. and it's paid off, or you're able to have a different type of mortgage. Then it's personal, just less space, more life. And then it's environmental. You're reducing your carbon footprint, which is huge. We right now are building the normal American size house is 2,600 square feet, but the average day of a interaction with your house is only 250 square feet. So it boggles your mind. What are people doing with all that space? Well, they're filling it with stuff that they don't need. So it's just, again, it's this vicious cycle of constant people buying, doing more stuff, more debt, and more anxiety on life when they could live smaller and be more experiential with their life and just be more free.